Hi friends, Maggie McGee here. Good to have you back with us. Today we're going to be canning, so grab your balls and let's get canning. The reason we're going to can is because so many people have asked me, what can I take to my loved one, my friend who has cancer? I want to cook for them, but I don't know what to cook, and I don't have time to cook at night. What can I do? So I came up with an idea to just can it, and I'll teach you how to can if you don't know how. So we'll learn it all today. So stay with us. Today we're going to use ball jars. I always use ball jars because frankly I don't trust any other brand. I've tried other brands and they don't stay sealed as long. And
here, I didn't realize balls came in so many different sizes.
Yes, this is my daughter, Ashley. She's going to be helping us today. Yes, balls come in many different sizes. You've got quarts, pints, and then there's a little half pint that's an awesome size. So we're going to focus mainly on quarts today. Our goal today is to make a whole meal so that you can take it to your friend or your loved one who has cancer. And all they have to do is open it up and it's ready to go. This is a meal. The bottom is ground turkey, and we have vegetables in here and sweet potatoes. This is shepherd's pie. So all that needs to happen with this is put it in a pan and heat it up. In fact, there is a little machine. I don't have one with me today, but there's a little machine that you can get to set your jar down in. It's almost like a baby bottle warmer, and you can heat up the whole jar at one time, and it's no dishes are involved. This is ground turkey. It's barbecue. It's homemade barbecue, and it's easy to get, just grab a jar and have a meal.
Gotta say. Hi, I'm Ashley. So I'm learning too. This is the first time that I have officially canned with my mom. So here's what I know. The things you need. You need a grabber, jars. They're gonna be hot when you pull them out of the pot. So this is what you take out, and you're gonna need some dry towels. Let me show you. This is how it works. Out. And there, fancy. You're gonna put them on dry towels when you're done, and cover them up with dry towels so that a lot of cool air doesn't hit them. One of these things, what do we use this for?
Tongs?
Well, I know they're tongs, but you use them for.
I don't know.
Okay. So the lids in the hot water, we pull them out with this too.
We have to sterilize the lids. So we've got lids here. These are your lids. It's a lid and a band. And you may want to see that a little bit closer up. A lid and a band, and it works like this. You don't have to boil these. In fact, don't boil these. What you're going to do is put them in very warm water where it's steaming, and then shut your burner off. But you want this rubber seal right here just to soften enough so that when you put it on your jar, it'll seal.
There's different size canning pots. This one is mine. It's kind of a beginner. It holds 8 quart size.
And it's a 16 quart, but it holds 8 jars.
Okay. And then this one holds 14, right? I don't know how many total quarts, like if you were to buy it, do you remember what it would say?
Pints, it holds 3 levels, and quarts 2 levels, so that'd be 14.
Okay. They have different gauges on them. The beginner one is easier just because the rocker part of the pressure gauge is easier to read. I would say the easiest thing to do, yeah, if you've got a dishwasher, it's just if you've got a sanitation rinse and all of that, they superheat it. So just run them through the dishwasher. Don't put anything else in there besides the jars.
Right.
No food or anything else, so that you won't have a chance of getting crusty food in there. And then leave your dishwasher closed until you're ready to put food in the jars.
Ooh, you have learned. You've learned a lot. Give her a gold star. Next, we're going to talk about the food. What are we going to can today? Well, we've saved you the monotony of watching us slice and dice everything. So we've got it all laid out. We're going to get that for you. Okay, today we're going to make Cajun stew. Now, this stew is made with these ingredients. Now, you can either can this, or everything that I talk about, you just throw it in a crock pot and add 2 cups of chicken broth to it, and you've got a meal. So if you don't want to can it, just throw it in the crock pot, Add 2 cups of chicken broth, and you're done. Okay, let's get started. Ashley is chopping up some tomato. You should have seen the size of this tomato. It's huge. It's kind of yellowy, but it's a gorgeous tomato.
An heirloom.
It is an heirloom. Thank you.
Welcome.
We're going to have black-eyed peas, onions, and these are all chopped up. As you can see, they're not very big. We're going to use carrots, celery, bell pepper, and what would Cajun stew be without okra? So there, everything's already cut up and ready to go.
What sizes would you say to cut up? Like because we're going to be putting these into quart jars.
Quart jars, yeah.
So is it better to have it smaller sizes to where it's densely packed, or do you want some space in there?
The densely packed is going to be fine.
Okay.
We don't have a whole lot of juice, but we have more ingredients. And
Okay.
actually 1 jar will feed 2 people or 2 meals.
Okay.
So we're getting the tomatoes chopped up right now, and the jars are in the dishwasher right here. We're sterilizing with the dishwasher, and they're almost done, so we'll get to that in just a second. Not that I'm advertising for Presto or anything, I'm not, but this is a very simple canner, and if you've never canned before, it's a low-cost, easy canner with no gauges or anything. So this is what I would call a beginner canner. It's the Presto, 16 quart. It is 16 quart. That doesn't mean that 16 quarts fit in it. It means it holds 16 quarts of water. So, but you'll just fill the bottom and it's going to have 7, 8 jars. Presto, easy to go. Now that we've got our canner out of the box, I want to show you what you can do with it, how to assemble it to cook. You'll find it has a bottom rack, and this is to keep your jars off of the very bottom, because if you put your jars on the very bottom of this pan without the rack, it will break your jars. Make sure you have this installed in the bottom, and then you're going to fill your canner. I fill my canner to about half with water, just plain water. And then you've got your lid, and it will go on when we're ready, and your pressure weight. And I'll show you how to use that in just a minute. In the meantime, Ashley's going to tell you about the lids.
Yeah, so we've got all the lids. I don't know if I can tilt it a little bit so can you see? So all the lids are in there. It's basically we're trying to soften the seal. We're not going to bring it to a full boil just as it starts to bubble a little bit. And I asked my mom earlier why she puts them in straight up, but it's for ease of grabbing. Because if they're flipped the other way down, then it's hard to get out. So they're flipped up, and we're going to pull these off as soon as they start to have a little bit of a bubble to them.
The steam will sterilize them and also soften the rubber around here. That's where you get your seal, is for this rubber. So let's get started packing those jars.
Are these ready to take out yet? I can see a little bit of steam and some bubbles, so how do I know?
Well, when we see some steam coming up, and just prior to the boiling point, we'll shut it off. We don't want to boil them, but we want to get them almost to that point. So we'll cut them off in just a second when they're ready. Okay, you guys know me. You know that this food is organic. So I don't have to go into all that every time. Everything's organic, okay? Always, always organic. Now, we're going to pack our first jar. We're going to take it out of the dishwasher. A little steamy. Yeah, a little steam. Get my hair done.
Nice.
Getting a facial right here. It's great. So that's a bonus. You can get a facial as you can. No extra charge.
When you're taking them out, do you try to avoid touching the top, or does it not matter because you're going to be touching it anyway?
It's not going to matter because you're going to touch it anyway, and the canner's actually going to sterilize it even farther. These are just all precautions so that if there's anything, you want to check your jars right now. You're going to have to touch them. So check the jars for any cracks or anything, any obstruction, because that will prevent a seal. So, all right, we got 2 good jars. We're ready to go. What I like to do is I like to put the heavier stuff in the bottom, put it in first. I like to put my spices in first because ultimately I'm trying to protect that seal. So I don't want little bitty loose grainy things up at the top, and I don't want softer foods at the top. So I kind of start out with the heavier stuff. We're going to use, hello, are you okay over there?
Okay.
So we're going to start out with the chicken and put it in the bottom. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a half a cup of chicken, and then I'll tell you the ingredients as we go around. I need another.
Oh, you do for the chicken.
I need one for the chicken because I've got to keep it.
Yeah, you're right.
I got to have something separate for the chicken to dip into it because I don't want to cross-contaminate and get chicken in my vegetables.
Here's a cup.
There we go.
You
That's
need
what
your
I need.
spice on the bottom first.
Yeah, I need my, thank you. I need my spice on the bottom. Now here, I made up my own spice. It's a Creole spice. I'll post it with the link or just post it on my website. Now that is a quarter of a teaspoon. Hello. Not a quarter of a cup. Quarter of a teaspoon. Now I'm ready to get a cup of chicken. This is, this particular meat is thighs, chicken thighs. So we're gonna take that, and I've got a funnel, and we're just gonna keep it all neat. That helps keep their jar rim clean. Okay, watch it not go in. There it is. Yay, success. Okay, next I have a half a cup. I'm gonna take just, probably about a half cup, okay, of tomato, a half a cup of okra, a half a cup, let me talk about these black-eyed peas. To prepare your black-eyed peas, everything else is just straight out of the refrigerator and sliced and diced. The black-eyed peas, we soaked them overnight and drained the water, so they're ready to go. Now, if you want to put this same, if you're doing this for the crock pot, you'll want to bring these black-eyed peas, you'll wash them really well. Always wash your vegetables. Wash them really well, and then drain them, and then bring them to boil them. Bring them to a boil for 10 minutes, and then drain off the water, and they're ready to go. So here goes our peas. What would Cajun stew be without peas? And so here we've got onions and we've got green peppers, but we kind of mixed them. So Ashley's going to take it from here and finish that jar, and we're just going to have a little assembly line.
I've only got a quarter cup, so I'm doing it twice.
Okay.
I'm gonna end with carrots on top. I was taught that something hard needs to go on top just to make it easier to get that seal.
Right. See, the hard carrots, they stay firmer than the other vegetables. And so by putting it at the top, it allows not so much density. The water can go around it, and it protects the top as well. So here we go, another jar.
It's lovely.
Now we'll set that aside, but we're going to put water in that. Oh, you know what we forgot?
It's okay.
The bouillon. We got to get some bouillon.
Oh yeah.
And put it in the bottom. We forgot. But
Okay.
a little teaspoon of
We'll do
bouillon.
that to the next one.
Okay. All right, I've got the chicken in here already. Now I'm going to do the tomatoes, the okra, the black-eyed peas. This is a half a cup. And then Ashley will finish, and she's putting in, how much are you putting in?
Each scoop is a quarter cup, so I'm doing it twice.
Right, we did mix them, so.
So it is peppers and onions. So I have a question.
Yes.
We forgot the bouillon, and we have to add water. So could we technically mix bouillon in the water that we're going to
Yes,
put in, and
yeah.
then that way we don't have
That's
to...
probably a good idea. Thank you, Ashley. That's a really good idea.
Four great ideas today.
You know, kids get their IQ from their mother.
Clearly.
Just so you know that. Just make that clear. She has a very high IQ. All right, two more. Here we go again. Now, this time, I'm going to I'll do it right. Okay, my Creole seasoning, my homemade Creole seasoning in the bottom. Like I said, I like the seasonings in the bottom. Now, the chicken, a cup of chicken. Thank you. Get in there. Now, I do get chicken on my left hand, but I'm very careful not to let this hand touch anything else. Any other foods? I hope I'm very careful. I gotta check. All right, tomato, okra, black-eyed peas, and Ashley will finish that with the
Bell peppers and onions, celery, and then carrots. And then same thing.
You don't have to have a daughter to do this. You can actually do this on your own, but it helps to have a daughter with a high IQ, like your mother. Okay, in the beginning, I forgot to put the teaspoon of bouillon in the bottom when I put in the Creole seasoning. So, I came up with an idea, or my daughter did actually, but she's got that high IQ that she gets from her mother. And she put 4 teaspoons of bouillon in this because we're going to have to add water to this, so she just mixed the two. So that's kind of a good thing to do. I thought that was pretty smart. I'm proud of you. So now we're going to, if you'll notice, that I only filled the jars up to this line right here. You have to leave that open. Don't overfill your jars. So, and also you're going to have to get the air out. So the way we do that is we put a knife down in every corner. So let me show you what we do. We put water, this is bouillon water, I guess it'd be chicken broth. So we're going to fill our jar. Again, we don't go past that fill line right here. Never go past that fill line. So I'm going to pull this to the side and the air bubbles will come up. So we got to release those bubbles because there's a science to canning. And I'm going to get my husband Mark to mansplain it to you. Mark, come over here and mansplain this. The science of canning right here. This man knows canning. But he... Okay. Mansplain the science of canning and what happens to these jars. Why do we have to get the air out?
You got a lid and a ring that I can use?
And how does it preserve it?
Okay.
So you may have to clean this one over again.
Okay.
So basically the lid, as she said, it has a seal on it. And when it sits here, it obviously is loose and it will come off. The purpose of the ring is just to keep the lid in place in the canning process. Now what happens is the gases, as you heat up, are able to escape the jar. They're able to come out of the jar easily. And the lid, like I said, will just hold it in place. The ring will hold it in place while it's heating up. Now what we're doing is we are using pressurized vessel. Our canners are going to be pressurized about 10 psi. As you probably know, water boils at 212 degrees at sea level, that's 100 Celsius. But under pressure, the boiling temperature rises. So when we get up to about 10 psi, we're up to about 230, 240 degrees Fahrenheit for boiling. And so basically we're cooking everything at that temperature. And explain the difference between cold pack and hot pack real quick.
I will. Oh yes, thank you. Okay, we've cold packed this. A lot of the canning books will say, oh, you got a hot pack, you got to cook everything, it's got to be hot, and you got to transfer all this hot water. And no, you don't. I've been canning for over 40 years, and I have never done that. Well, I did it once, the first time I ever canned, and I said, I'm never canning again if this is how you have to do it. Well, you don't. And in my 40 years, I've only had 3 jars that didn't work. So that's pretty good, and I can a lot. So anyway, what we're going to do is get the air bubbles out, as Mark mansplained it. Thank you very much, dear.
Oh, I got some more explaining to do.
Oh, yes you do.
Okay, so you get the air out of
you mean
there.
about like jars? Okay.
So you got all the air out of there. So basically as we heat it up, you want to cook this under pressure. So once again, like I said, it's a higher temperature than normal sea level pressure or temperatures. So the air and the gases will escape because this lid is designed to let the gases escape during the heating process. And then after you finally cooked it, you're going to let it slowly cool. And what happens is as it cools, the gases and the liquids inside the jar start to contract, and it pulls the lid back down on top and seals it. So you basically got a vacuum seal.
How long does that last? How long is this, when you seal this jar, how long is this jar going to last on the shelf?
Well, yeah, food that we've been eating that's been in a jar for about 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
So
As long as your seal is good, should be good. the thing that you'll hear about is botulism, and don't be worried about botulism as long as everything is clean. What botulism is born from, it's soil borne. So you just got to make sure your vegetables are clean, and the ones that are hardest to clean are going to be celery, lettuce, carrots, spinach. Make sure those things are triple washed and wash them in vinegar and then rinse the vinegar off.
So as you see, here we are with a finished product that doesn't have the ring on there because the ring was only used to hold the lid during the heating process. Once it's cooled off, take the lid off, and the only thing holding the lid on is vacuum. There's nothing
But don't
else.
ever do that. And don't store your jars upside down. Never do what he just did.
So
But as you see, it works.
is there no oxygen in it anymore?
Very little, because
Okay.
you pushed all, and we have very little air to start with. As we said, it's mostly liquid. So we've already displaced all the air like you just did with a knife. So as you heat it, whatever little air is left in there is going to be expelled out and is able to escape through the lid. And then as it cools off, it clamps down, seals, and the air doesn't get back in.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
Thank you, dear.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So
That was
smart.
lovely. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for that mansplaining. Okay, we're going to fill up the rest of the jars with our broth, and then we'll get back to you. We don't want to bore you with this part. Okay, and we're back. What I want to tell you about is vinegar in a bottle. It's awesome. It's easy to use, and why you want vinegar in a bottle, you say, is because you're going to clean the tops of your jars with that. This will take any film that you have, any mess, and you just wipe it clean. And you got to make sure when you go to your next jar, you keep moving your napkin around with the vinegar on it so you're not rubbing the same place twice.
So just white distilled full power vinegar.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for that, yeah. Okay, now this just prepares us to put the lids on, okay? Now after I do this, I don't touch this rim anymore because it's free of oil, the vinegar takes the oil off, and we're good to go. Now I do advocate for apple cider vinegar all the time, but in this case, we're using the white vinegar. Okay, now we're ready for the lids. So we're going to be careful not to be touching things. So I'm picking up my lid, and I'm going to put it on just like that. Now, you don't want it real tight. You don't, because as Mark explained already in his mansplaining, air comes out. So you want to turn it till you just give it a good, just not tight, but firm. So we're going to do each of these jars, and then we're going to take them over to the counter and show you how to do that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So at what point do we turn that on?
Good question, because this is cold. You don't want your water that you have in here hotter than your jars or they'll crack. So in cold packing, everything starts out cold. And right now the water's cold, but we can go ahead and turn it on and let it start warming up because this is only going to take a second to put the lids on here. So we can turn it on now and let it start warming up. And we'll be right back. Okay, we have watered our canner, we've got the burner on, we're starting to heat it up. One rule in canning is never have more than 2/3 water in your pot. Now we're going to add these jars. It's very possible that we may have to take out some of the water because we never want the level higher than 2/3 full. Okay, Ashley's putting them in.
I'm going to put them...
And she's going to show you how they go. Just you put them in gently because they are glass. Now this water right now is still, it's just warm to the touch. In doing it this way, and not a hot pack, cold pack takes a little longer. You have to have a little more patience, but it takes a little longer to heat this up. And I think we got a little bit full. We're going to take a little water out.
Yeah.
So let's take that out. We're going to take some water out.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know if you can see the water level, but it's at 2/3, and that's where you want it. You don't want any less or any more. You never want your canner to go dry because if it does, it's ruined. So 2/3 is the mark. Also, your burner on your stove, does not need to exceed 12,000 BTUs. If you have a burner that's 12,000 or less, that's the one you can on, because 12,000 BTUs or stronger can actually warp the bottom of your canner. So 12,000 BTUs or less. Okay, now it's time to put the lid on. What we're going to do is we're going to check our gasket to make sure it's in place. And what I did was I put a little oil on this gasket. I took it out. It comes out very easily.
What kind of oil did you use?
We used avocado oil. You can use coconut oil.
Yeah.
But you just want a thin layer on it. You don't want it thick. You don't want grease in here. So it's ready to go. Let's see if we can put this lid on here. Let me move, you do that. I'm gonna move this one.
Sure. Okay, we're gonna put the lid on. The gasket is oiled, and we're gonna, this little hook right here with this particular pot lines up more in the front with that.
You know, there is something about a toothpick. They may need to make sure, but it's okay. This way. Yeah. All right, you line up your handles.
And then to close is this way. Okay.
Yeah, you make sure those are lined up. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to wait until this heats up. We're going to wait until we see steam coming out of this hole right here. Now the steam will shoot up, and we're going to let it steam for 10 minutes before we put the pressure gauge on. Now this is a pressure gauge that comes with this beginner canner. Here's your weight. Now this is 5 pounds, and this is how they've done it. This makes it 10 pounds, and this makes it 15 pounds. But when you're canning meat, you always use 10 pounds, if it's got any meat in it, 10 pounds. So we're ready to go with just the 5 pound weight and the 10 pound and the other 5 pound weight added. We have 10 pounds right here. So right now we're just going to sit back, relax, but never leave the room where your canner is. Stay here to watch and make sure, canner safety, never leave the room. Make sure this is open. I did test this earlier. I put a toothpick through it to make sure, and ran water through it to make sure this vent was completely open. So it is. And now we're just going to wait for the steam to vent through, and then we'll put our weight on after it's got a good steam flow. For those of you that are following along and putting your ingredients in a crock pot, again, all you do is go ahead and put your salt and pepper in there now to taste, and you'll cook it for, and you've got a meal. Also, as far as seasoning, I did not put salt and pepper in the jars as I was putting the Creole seasoning in, because when you can, the foods, the taste becomes so concentrated. Everything is stronger. So I don't even put salt and pepper in most of the time until after it's cooked, because the salt does not act as a preserver or anything. It just is for taste. So wait on that and salt to taste. Can you see this steady stream of steam coming up here like this? That's exactly what we were waiting on. Now we're ready to put the weight on. So here goes. Careful, because there it is, steam, and it is hot.
10 pounds, right?
10 pounds steam. Now this is going to pop up. This is going to tell you that your pressure is building, and that when it stays popped up, you've got pressure. Now when it's ready to go, this will start rocking. So we're going to leave it here until what we're looking for next is this to start rocking. So we'll wait on it. Again, never leave your canner or the kitchen while you're canning. Now you can see we've started rolling here. This is tilting. If I tilt it, you'll see steam come out. We don't want that, but anyway. We got pressure has built up. You've got this pressure gauge right here. This stays up and it stays firm when the canner is pressurized. Now it's letting off a little steam at a time, and that's what we want. But we're going to let it rock a little harder. Then we're going to turn our burner down. We're going to turn down the fire, and then we're going to start our time. For quarts with meat, it's 10 pounds at 90 minutes. So we will can this for 90 minutes. Okay, now you can see that it's dancing a little bit harder. It took about 5 minutes. So once it's doing that, once it starts dancing, from the moment it starts dancing till it's dancing harder is about 5 minutes. So if you can't tell the difference, that comes with practice, okay? So once it starts dancing, feel free to turn your burner down after 5 to 6 minutes. So I'm going to turn it down to medium. Now we start our time 90 minutes from now. So set your timer, but don't leave the kitchen. Never leave the kitchen while you're canning. So we'll be back in 90 minutes. Okay, we have reached our 90-minute time period. This is done. I'm going to turn it off. Turn off the burner. Okay, now it's off. We're just going to leave it and let it sit. What's going to happen is this is going to stop rocking, and this tells me that the canner is still pressurized. When that goes down, the canner is no longer pressurized. And then we'll test it before we open it. You got to let it cool. It's going to take over an hour. So this will stop rocking, and we don't do anything. We leave it for about an hour. We come back and we'll tilt this to the side to see if it's got any steam in it. If it does, we still leave it till all the steam is gone, and this is flat, has gone down all the way flat. So we'll be back to this. It's an hour later, and you'll see that this has gone down. This tells me this is the pressure indicator. It's gone down, tells me there's no pressure in there. So I'm going to tilt this just a little bit away from me, see if there's any steam left, and guess what? No, there's not. We're ready to open it. Now it's going to be very hot. So to open your canner, open this way, and then pull the lid back so the steam is not in your face. There you go. Now, something you'll want to do is, if you've got air conditioning on or a fan on, before you bring this out, shut that fan off, because you don't want this hot jar to be exposed to anything too cool. So when you take it out and you put it on the counter, you want to make sure you've got a dry towel to put your hot jars on. Okay, so I'm going to pull the first one out, and after I get them out, I'm going to cover them. Look at that, it's still boiling. Can you see that? That's beautiful. Very, very hot. Bring them out very carefully with your jar grabber. We're going to take them out one at a time, and then we're going to cover them. You don't want them to bounce or bump anything. Now, we're going to cover them and let them cool off very slowly, and we can turn our fan back on because it is hot in the kitchen. So there we go. We are done.